Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to GameTube, and welcome back to our Poppy Playtime character concept series. So in today's video, the character looking into is the White Unicorn from the Smiling Critters. So although some of the new characters have had their names revealed, the White Unicorn's name is still unknown, so that's the name we're going to go with in this video. But we're going to go through their backstory, gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. But also just a reminder, this is not definitive what's actually going to happen in Chapter 3. This is just a fun what if scenario, so just keep that in mind. And lastly, before we start today's video, do be sure to leave a like and subscribe to GameTube as it helps a lot and it's greatly appreciated. It also keeps you up to date with all the videos that we post. Alrighty, well with that all out of the way, let's get into the character concept of the White Unicorn. So in our previous video, we looked into the character of the Blue Elephant. This character is a part of the new toy line, the Smiling Critters. In that video, our main protagonist found themselves up against the evil twisted version of the cute toy elephant. In the end, they managed to get away safe and sound. But there are more smiling critter toys lurking around the factory, and it's only a matter of time before the player meets the next creepy critter. But also recently, we've had some of these characters' names revealed, and these characters' names are Bobby Bearhug, Dog Day, Picky Piggy, and lastly, Catnap. The other characters' names are still a mystery, and it's going to be interesting to see what they'll be named. But the most interesting thing of all is the cartoon short that was released recently. It shows the smiling critters having trouble sleeping due to the scary winds outside. Then suddenly, the cartoon takes a very sinister turn as the character Catnap shows up. The smiling critters desperately beg Catnap to put them all to sleep. Catnap agrees and breathes out the red sleeping gas from his mouth. The critters then all start laughing hysterically and are knocked out cold. The only one who isn't sleeping is Catnap as he sits on the couch and stares at the viewer. But what if there's some truth to this cartoon? What if Catnap was actually responsible for all the smiling critters becoming corrupted? What if this sleepy red gas could do more than just put them to sleep? Maybe this red gas corrupted them so much that they all transformed into the evil versions of themselves. Well, if this was true, then the player has their work cut out for them. They would need to get past each of these twisted versions of the smiling critters. And before you know it, they'd be meeting the next creepy smiling critter. So now we return back to the main protagonist. After escaping the clutches of the Blue Elephant, they now find themselves in a strange new area. This place was dark and cold. The player couldn't describe it. They had a very bad feeling about this place. All around them were classrooms filled with empty desks, and books and chairs scattered everywhere. It seems they were in some sort of learning area for the orphans. Maybe this was another extension of the Playcare facility. Regardless of what this area was, the player didn't want to stay here any longer. As they travelled deeper through this area, things get a little strange. What on earth were these things? There was a whole bunch of them growing out of the walls and floors. They look like horns, but where did they come from? The player makes an effort to walk around these horns and avoid touching them. Who knows what they could be or what they could do? Eventually they come across a corridor filled with all these weird horns. The player does their best to shimmy past them, but their grab pack accidentally knocks one. As soon as this happens, the player can almost see some faint vibration waves emanating from the strange horn. Then, all of a sudden, someone comes rushing over towards them. There's nothing the player can do. They just have to stand there and wait for whatever happens next. Seconds later, something truly horrifying is standing in front of them. It's revealed to be the corrupted version of the White Unicorn. This twisted toy creature stands on all fours and has quite the disturbing face. Protruding out of its head is a large horn. This horn looks very similar to all the others that are scattered around this area. The player soon realizes that this creature doesn't have eyes. The White Unicorn is completely blind. Then how did it know someone was here? That's it. It must be when the player hit the horn. The White Unicorn must be using them as some sort of echolocation to get around. The player stands perfectly still and waits for the unicorn to move on. Eventually, the White Unicorn can't sense anyone around them and walks away. That was a close one. The player needs to be careful and avoid hitting any more of these horns. As they make their way through this area, they finally come across the exit doors. But there was one little problem. There was a large overgrown bunch of these horns blocking the door. Now how are they going to get out of here? If they're going to get through this door, they would need to break each of these horns. So the player sets out to find something strong enough to break each of these horns. The only problem is that when they break them, that will alert the White Unicorn. They would need to be careful and hide before the unicorn gets them. So while searching around, the player finds themselves in an empty room. It looks like someone has smashed a large hole in the wall with a sledgehammer. That sledgehammer would be perfect. It would be sturdy enough to break all the horns blocking the doorway. As the player approaches it, the white unicorn enters the room. It doesn't seem to notice the player. The player needs to stand perfectly still or else it will attack. As the player stares at the toy creature, it does something quite strange. It tilts its head and launches its horn straight into the wall. And then something even stranger happens. One of those larger horns grows out of the wall. So that's what the unicorn does. It plants these horns all around the area. Suddenly, the unicorn sprouts another horn out of its head. It stares off into the distance and then walks away. Finally, the player can move again. They need to get out of here quickly, because if they don't, they'll be skewered by one of those horns. So the player picks up the sledgehammer and heads back to the exit. They equip the hammer and break the first horn. In only a matter of seconds, the unicorn has arrived. The player stands perfectly still and waits. The unicorn approaches them as they try their best to stand still. It's only inches from their face now. This horrible creature just stares into the abyss. Just one tiny movement from the player and it's all over. Finally, the unicorn walks away and the player continues breaking the horns. One after the other, the player needs to stand still as the unicorn re-enters. Eventually, the player breaks all the horns and now they can exit. As they open the doors, they swing around and accidentally hit one of the other horns on the other side. The unicorn takes notice of the player and charges towards them. The player now has to make a run for it and get away from this horrible creature. They need to be quick and get to a large open area. With these narrow corridors, the unicorn only has to charge forward. The player then finds themselves at a dead end. The unicorn charges towards them and they dodge the attack at the last second. The unicorn plunges their horn into an electrical box on the wall. Suddenly, a large electrical current is sent through the unicorn's body. Their body twitches as it gets zapped and shocked. Eventually, the electricity stops. Sizzling smoke starts creeping out of both their empty eye sockets, and then the unicorn collapses. Finally, it was over. They won't be waking up from that shock anytime soon. Now the player is free to move on to the next area. As they make their way through this place, they hope this is the last critter they ever have to deal with. But something tells them that it isn't over, not just yet, and as to who will surprise them next is uncertain, but until then we'll just have to wait and see. So I think this would be a really interesting version of the White Unicorn. Whatever their official name is, I'm sure it'll be a good one, and I hope to see this character in the future chapter for Poppy Playtime. As of yet, it only looks like we're going to be seeing more of Catnap than any of the other characters, but I hope we do get to see some of these other characters as well, and hopefully it's the White Unicorn that we get to see, but we'll know soon enough when Chapter 3 finally releases. Alrighty everyone, well that's what we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribing because it helps a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of today's video and what smiling critter you'd like to see next. Alrighty everyone, well, to the next video, I'll catch you later, bye.